The show opens in Houston, where two nurses are exiting the hospital after ending their shifts. As they engage in conversation, one of the nurses, Rose, feels uneasy and says she's got a bad feeling. Her intuition turns out to be true, as a stranger suddenly arrives there and shoots at her multiple times. The scene then cuts to 7 years later, and we are simultaneously introduced to our protagonists. The first one is Vera, a radio astronomer who has been conducting research about extraterrestrial beings in the middle of the desert. She works for the NDSA, the country's leading space administration, and her colleague in this project is a guy named Alan. Then we are taken across the border to Mexico, where our second protagonist, Raul, is being restrained by some thugs. Just as he's about to be executed, his friends come to his rescue and shoot the thugs down. Turns out Raul is an undercover agent, and he was sent here to track the whereabouts of a dangerous criminal named El Jefe. Why are they all named El Jefe? Now that he's got the coordinates of their base, Raul wants to return home and leave this dangerous life behind. After this, we are introduced to a young woman named Erin, who recently got divorced from her abusive husband. She has gained full custody of their daughter Amy, and the two are living a happy life. The fourth hero is a charismatic televangelist named Joshua. He hosts regular shows on live TV, where he preaches about God and faith, and today's sponsor, Clash of Kings. Judging by the large audience present in his shows, Joshua is pretty famous. Finally, we are introduced to a high school student from Little Rock named Peter. Apart from having a cute girlfriend, everything in Peter's life is bad. He lost his parents at a young age and now lives in an orphanage. He isn't good at studies, and he is constantly bullied by the popular students. But he's getting laid, so trust me, Peter, that's something. In the next scene, we are taken back to Vera and Alan, who have received some strange signals on their computer. With each passing second, the signals grow stronger, almost as if something is approaching Earth. Vera then excuses herself and heads out to the desert, where she comes across a shocking sight: a giant meteor falling in the distance. The crash releases a massive wave of energy, and it travels towards Vera at a great speed. Surprisingly, as soon as it touches her, her eyes get dilated, and she falls to the ground unconscious. Raul, who's in Mexico, and Joshua, who's performing live on stage, are also exposed to the wave. They immediately fall to the ground, while everyone else around them remains unaffected. As for the remaining two protagonists, they are affected in the worst possible situations. Erin is driving her daughter somewhere when the wave hits her, causing an accident. Peter is in the midst of a swimming session, and when the wave hits, he starts drowning. We are then taken to the site of the meteor crash, where shockingly, a half-burnt man is present. A few minutes later, all the 5 people struck by the wave regain consciousness. Peter is taken out of the pool by his friends, who also resuscitate him and bring him back to life. Erin is rescued by the cops, and she appears to be fine. However, her daughter Amy is in critical condition, and she is immediately rushed to the hospital. The televangelist, Joshua, wakes up in a cold sweat, and he asserts that he needs to make an announcement tonight. As for Vera, she wakes up next to her colleague as if nothing happened. They attribute the fainting to dehydration and lack of sleep. Finally, we are taken to Mexico, where Raul also comes to his senses. As he talks to his undercover friends, he experiences a sudden headache and starts hearing voices in his head. The voices are actually the thoughts of his friends, which he can hear clearly. Turns out they are planning to kill him to tie up some loose ends. Enraged at the betrayal, Raul gets into a tussle with them and manages to take them down. In the process, however, he is shot in the arm. Elsewhere, Vera and Alan reach the meteor crash site, which is still burning. They notice the smell of sulfur and immediately conclude that the meteor came from outer space. It's a pretty good guess. These guys must be scientists. But before they can research further, the special services arrive to take control of the situation. Following this, we are shown what the rest of the gang is up to. An injured Raul has somehow crossed the border and is back in the US. Joshua goes live on television and claims that he died today but got resurrected by God. He says that Judgment Day is coming and they'll have to be prepared for it. Meanwhile, Peter is once again bullied by his classmates for no apparent reason. It's because they're jealous that he's getting laid. One of the guys punches him repeatedly, causing him to bleed, but this time Peter is not going to let it slide. Something suddenly takes over him, and he starts bashing the bully mercilessly. Peter then picks up the guy effortlessly and slams him against a car, killing him. on the spot. Finally, we are taken to the hospital where Erin hugs her injured daughter and cries. Surprisingly, when her tears fall on the little girl's face, she wakes up with no pain whatsoever. It's almost as if she is completely healed from her injuries. This delights Erin so much that she sneaks her daughter out of the hospital without even paying the medical bills. She was just too happy to do it. On the other hand, we see Alan driving Vera to her house. Amidst their conversation, he brings out a small piece of the meteor, which he had hidden in his pocket earlier. Excited, Vera says that they'll carry further experiments on it tomorrow. They soon arrive at her house, and Alan departs after saying goodbye to her. Unfortunately, when Vera enters her room, she realizes that someone has broken in. It turns out to be the same half-burnt man from earlier, who was seen at the crash site. Vera points a gun at him, threatening to shoot, but the man stays calm. He claims that he can help her find her lost son, Michael. Here, it is revealed that Vera lost her son 8 years ago at the airport, and she has been looking for him ever since. The airport is the one place on Earth where it should be genuinely impossible to lose your son. The man then asks her to check her laptop, and when Vera does, she finally sees a clip of her son after 8 long years. Shocked, she asks who he is, but the man says it's not important. He then promises to deliver her son to her, but for that, she has to do something for him. When Vera asks what it is, the man says that she has to kill a woman who has been in a coma for 7 years. This woman is none other than Rose, the one who got shot in the first scene. Elsewhere, Raul needs a ride to Houston, as it is where his brother lives, so he gets into a random car and threatens the owner to drive. Coincidentally, she is none other than Erin. Peter also hitches a ride to Houston, as he is wanted for murder in Little Rock. Finally, Joshua gets the devastating news that his wife and dad were actually having an affair behind his back. To make matters worse, he suffers from a violent seizure. During his brief period of unconsciousness, he gets numerous visions, which include a comatose Rose, the half-naked man at the meteor crash site, Dad? No, and a hospital in Houston. Joshua then wakes up and realizes that he has been chosen by God for a reason. So, he decides to set off for Houston to find answers. The scene then cuts to the Houston Memorial Hospital, where a desperate Vera is preparing herself to kill Rose. The unnamed man is also in the room, doing his best to motivate her. Vera then grabs a pillow and proceeds to commit the deed, but before she can do so, Rose suddenly wakes up from her coma. She stares right into the man's eyes and talks to him in a creepy language. This prompts him to leave the scene immediately. I would leave too. Vera is stunned by how a person can wake up from a 7-year-long coma and talk as if nothing happened. She has so many questions in mind. Rose calms her down and says that they have some important discussing to do. For this, they sneak out of the hospital room and head somewhere safe. Meanwhile, Erin and her gang arrive at Houston, but Raul has already passed out due to his wounds. Desperate to get rid of him, she tries to drag him out of her car, but the little girl Amy insists that they help him. Erin cannot refuse her daughter, so they proceed to the nearest hospital, which coincidentally turns out to be Houston Memorial. Raul is prepared for treatment right away, but the nurse informs Erin that this won't be taken as a normal case because the victim has a gunshot wound. She then proceeds to the reception to contact the police. Just then, Raul wakes up and starts panicking as he had been brought to a hospital. As he tries to run away, he accidentally trips over Erin and she ends up falling on top of him. Miraculously, she heals his wound in seconds, just like she did with her daughter. Raul is shocked by what just happened, but he doesn't have time to inquire about it as the cops are already in the building. So he, along with Erin and Amy, make a run for it. Simultaneously, Joshua arrives at the hospital and the first thing he does is go to the nearby chapel to pray. Peter is already in the room, and it turns out he has also arrived this morning. Then all the other members enter the chapel one after another, as if fate has brought them together. Rose, who is the only one aware of what's going on, says that they are the angels of the apocalypse. Peter especially belongs here because he killed an innocent child recently. She stuns everyone by saying their names correctly and claims that they have been brought here for an important mission. According to Rose, the devil has come to Earth and he will do his best to turn everyone evil. He is the same unnamed man from earlier. Rose then tells everyone that they're the only ones who can save humanity from something called the Rapture. In other words, the apocalypse. Rose also reveals reveals that all of them have a special ability. Aaron, the power to heal. Peter, a hot girlfriend and incredible strength. Raul, the ability to hear others' thoughts. And Joshua, the gift of prophetic vision. As for Vera, she will get to know of her ability soon. Potentially, the gift of ASMR. Rose then reveals that God has given her the gift of understanding, as she can speak all the languages known to humankind. Just then, Joshua starts getting visions of the future. He sees numerous things, like a war veteran with a bionic arm, someone playing chess, and Vera reuniting with her son. Unfortunately, the others believe this is all a joke, so they refuse to work together and leave. The only one who is convinced by the story is Joshua. He approaches Vera outside and reveals about his vision where he saw her reunited with her son. Although Vera is an atheist and doesn't believe in supernatural things, she decides to trust him, hoping that he can lead her to her son. They soon arrive outside the house, which Joshua had seen in his earlier vision. A woman opens the door and reveals that her husband is a war veteran who lost one of his arms in Iraq. Hearing this, Joshua realizes that the man is the one from his visions. Since he isn't at home right now, the duo sets off to find him. On the other hand, we see the war veteran, John, at a horse racing track. He appears to have resorted to gambling to make ends meet at home. John wins a huge bet today, which earns him a few thousand schmeckles. But as he is celebrating, he is approached by none other than the devil. The latter proposes that they play a game of chess, and if John wins, he will get 4 times the amount he has right now. Tempted by the greed of quick money, John agrees without much thought. Shortly after, Vera and Joshua arrive at the scene, only to find the racetrack empty. This frustrates Vera, and she assumes that they're just wasting her time. So, without hearing Joshua's explanation, she angrily storms off. In the next scene, we see the devil and John engaged in a game of chess at the park. John appears to be an expert at chess, as he claims to have won multiple awards. Yeah, they give awards out for chess. But he is of no match against the devil, who can predict his every move. John soon loses the game, and as a result, he has to give up the money he won earlier. This leaves him completely broke, as he had bet his entire savings on the horse race earlier. Soon after, Joshua arrives near the park and notices John heading towards a speeding bus. Vera also coincidentally happens to be passing by the same road. They both try to stop John from committing the unthinkable, but fail. Later, we see Joshua and Vera discussing the events at a bar. At this moment, the entire gang shows up, almost as if destiny brought them here. That or communal alcoholism. Rose then steps forward and explains that they need to find and stop the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. She claims that these people are just normal humans, but the devil tempts them to commit a sin. Each time he succeeds, the rapture draws closer. Hearing this, Joshua realizes that John was one of the horsemen, but the devil got to him first. Then he gets some visions of the future, where he sees a statue, a drawing of a penis, a woman holding someone's dog tags, blood, Jake Paul getting his ass beat by Mike Tyson, and a Middle Eastern politician. Subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you for watching.